Days before sitting down with Donald Trump in Alaska, Vladimir Putin picks up the phone to Kim Jong Un. Not just a courtesy call, a performance, a reminder. Putin praises Kim's soldiers for liberating Russian territory. Kim vows loyalty under their mutual defense pact. The timing, impeccable, a signal to Washington that Russia is not alone. And if Trump pushes too hard, Moscow can tighten its grip on Pyongyang's trigger finger. President Vladimir Putin held a phone call with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un and updated him on planned talks the Russian leader will hold with US President Donald Trump in Alaska this week. North Korea's state news agency KCNA later reported the two leaders discussed the development in the country's ties under a strategic partnership agreement signed last year, confirming their will to strengthen cooperation in the future. Putin expressed appreciation for North Korea's help in liberating the Kursk region in western Russia in the war against Ukraine and the bravery, heroism, and self-sacrificing spirit displayed by service personnel of the Korean People's Army.
The president of Russia warmly congratulated the Korean leader on the upcoming national holiday, the 80th anniversary of liberation of Korea from Japanese colonial rule, marked on August 15th. Kim Jong Un stressed that the DPRK considers it a shared holiday and remembers the role of the Red Army in the fight against the invaders. Both sides reaffirmed their commitment to further developing relations of friendship, neighborliness, and cooperation across all areas in line with the Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership between Russia and the DPRK, signed in Pyongyang on June 19, 2024. Vladimir Putin highly appreciated the support provided by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea during the liberation of the Kursk region from the invading forces of the Kiev regime, and the courage, heroism, and selflessness displayed by the DPRK soldiers. The president of Russia also shared information with Kim Jong Un in the context of the upcoming talks with US President Donald Trump.
The KCNA also reported that Kim expressed his heartfelt thanks to Putin and said Pyongyang would always remain faithful to the spirit of the Mutual Defense Treaty signed by the sides last year, as well as fully support all measures to be taken by the Russian leadership in the future. According to a South Korean intelligence assessment, North Korea has dispatched more than 15,000 troops to support Russia's campaign in western Russia in the Ukraine conflict and is believed to be planning another deployment. On August 12th, the BBC reported that thousands of North Koreans are being sent to work in slave-like conditions in Russia to fill a huge labor shortage exacerbated by Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine. This week, Russia made fresh military advances in Ukraine, leading to a sudden thrust near the eastern town of Dobropilya and advancing 10 kilometers in a short period of time. There is strong evidence that the recent phone call between Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, occurring just days before a summit between Putin and US President Donald Trump in Alaska, was intended as a clear signal regarding Russia's international position in the ongoing war in Ukraine. The call and the praise for North Korean troops could very well be a signal to domestic and international audiences that Russia has steadfast allies even as the Ukraine war continues and diplomatic pressures rise. The phone call, both in its timing and its content, can be reasonably interpreted as a calculated move by Putin to show Trump, the US and Western powers that Russia is not fighting alone, but can count on robust military and diplomatic support from North Korea. This is further reinforced by public statements, press releases, and official reports from both Russian and North Korean state media celebrating their alliance, and by prior consistent evidence that North Korea's involvement in the Ukraine war is direct and significant. The Russian-North Korean axis lets Putin threaten or promise coordination on issues important to the US, such as North Korean missile testing or arms transfers. This gives Russia new bargaining chips that could be used to extract concessions in Alaska. The Economic Times reported that by highlighting close cooperation with North Korea, including pledges of continued support and acknowledgement of North Korean military aid in the Ukraine conflict, Putin underscores that Russia has other strong partners willing to challenge US interests. This increases Russia's leverage at the negotiating table with Trump. Some analysts told Al Jazeera that a successful negotiation between Trump and Putin on Ukraine could create openings for progress in US-North Korea relations, given Putin's influence over Kim. Putin might use this as additional leverage, with the possibility of facilitating or obstructing US DPRK dialogue depending on how talks with Trump unfold. With North Korea publicly supporting Russia, potentially with arms for the Ukraine war or increased military exercises, Trump must weigh the risk of simultaneous escalation in Europe and Asia. This could make him more cautious in pushing hardline stances against Moscow, as it creates additional threats for US allies like South Korea and Japan. The overt outreach to Kim by Putin just before talks with Trump is widely seen as an intentional and strategic signal emphasizing Russia's partnerships and its willingness to escalate or internationalize the conflict in Ukraine if pressured by the West. North Korea has benefited tremendously from its decision to supply enormous quantities of ammunition and soldiers to Russia in return for advanced nuclear and missile technology and diplomatic cover. Estimates from a German think tank suggest North Korea has earned anywhere from $1.7 billion to $5.5 billion from selling war material to Russia since 2023. The think tank also estimates North Korea may also be receiving up to $500 million annually from the troop deployments. Russia is also helping North Korea modernize its aging Soviet-era military. For example, Russia appears to have provided assistance to Pyongyang in building a critical new air defense system, an airborne early warning system, tanks with improved electronic warfare systems, a naval destroyer with supersonic cruise missiles, and air-to-air missiles. In addition, North Korean soldiers have received valuable modern combat experience using artificial intelligence and drones against a highly skilled Ukrainian military. And Russian soldiers have also tested North Korea's weapons in combat, such as ballistic missiles, which will assist in their future research and development. With Russian expertise, North Korea has also made recent progress on technologies associated with launching satellites and intercontinental ballistic missiles, which can deliver numerous miniaturized nuclear warheads. These developments mean South Korea and its allies will need to deal with a much more battle-hardened and technologically advanced North Korean military. Its antiquated systems, historically limited by isolation and a range of international sanctions, are now being rapidly transformed, making it a much more formidable foe.